All right, guys, can we start the session? Am I audible to all of you? Can you just confirm me whether the voice is loud and clear? Okay, all right. All right, guys. So, any questions? We'll take first 5 minutes to discuss the questions. Let me pause the recording and then we will continue. Okay. Okay. So, guys, can we continue the session, today's session? So we are going to discuss, the way you're going to handle questions about public service, motivation, and your personal integrity. So your motivation questions part, we have already discussed before. So here, again, we are trying to be more specific. And again, these are very critical questions in UPSC interview because they reveal the values and principles that drive you as a candidate. So that's again very important, and it is going to give them a lot of messages and ideas about you as a person. And the panel wants to understand your motivation for joining public service and how you will handle situations where your personal integrity might be tested. So as a civil servant, you'll often face ethical dilemmas and situations where your moral compass will guide your decisions. So they definitely want to know what kind of person you are, what kind of motivation you have, what are your values, what are your ethical standards and everything. And even in my interviews also, I was asked several questions about my reasons for choosing public service and especially IPS as my preference, and how I would ensure that I acted with my integrity, in my role. So they will definitely test you on this. So it's very important to be very clear about your motivation and to demonstrate that your decisions will be guided by strong ethical standards with absolute integrity, core integrity, 100% integrity. Whether you have it or not, that's different, but you show in front of them that you have it. Okay. So that's what we are going to discuss. Let's see how you're going to frame the answer. So understand the public service motivation first. Right, guys. See, public service motivation means to the values and sense of purpose that drive individuals to serve the public and contribute to the welfare of society. So they are very much interested in knowing this, okay? And it's about having a genuine desire. It's about having a genuine desire, but we can, whether you have it or not, that's different thing. We will be showing it as if we have, okay? Genuine desire to improve the lives of others, ensure fairness and justice. So, and you also have to make a meaningful contribution to the development of the country. So a genuine desire to improve the life of the others, ensure fairness, justice, and a meaningful contribution to the development of the country. Just keep these words in mind. You have a genuine desire to improve the lives of the others, influence in the lives of the others, ensure fairness and justice, and also meaningful contribution to the development of the country. And when you speak each of these words, it should come from your brain, but it should feel like it is coming from your heart. Okay, so when answering questions about your motivation for joining public service, it's very important to reflect upon, the personal reasons that led you to, choose this path. So what all personal, situations you can say? One, you can make it as a desire to make a positive impact, right? So many candidates are motivated by the desire to make a tangible difference in the lives of others, whether through improving governance, enhancing public safety, or working on socio-economic development. So bring in that dimension. And then you can also talk about commitment to social justice and equality. So again, some candidates are driven by a commitment to social justice, a desire to address inequality, corruption, or the lack of basic services, or their experience that they had. Okay. Or you can also talk about contributing to nation building. We are trying to build answer. I'll make it specific for you. I'll make it tailor-made for you, but after your mains result in one-to-one setting. But now let's have a general discussion and we will do this. So see, many will be motivated by sense of duty and a desire to contribute to the development and programs of the nation. So that also we need to bring in. And if you can bring in all the three together, like that Venn diagram that we used to discuss, all the three comes together, that will be the best situation. For example, if you're looking for IAS, right, what you can say, I've always been motivated by a desire to improve governance and ensure that the government policies reach to those who need them the most. There are policies, but it's not reaching to the beneficiaries. So I believe that through IAS, I can contribute to creating policies that reduce inequality and improve healthcare, access to healthcare, improve education and economic opportunities, etc. You can talk about this. We will be sitting together, one-to-one sessions. I told you we have 5 one-to-one sessions with each one of you. Okay, and we will be discussing and solving this personally, and I give you the tailor-made replies for you, each one of you. If you have IPS preference, you can say, my motivation for joining IPS comes from my belief in justice and public safety. And I want to protect citizens, ensure that the law is applied fairly, and work towards reducing crime and violence in society. So IPS offers me the opportunity to make a direct and positive impact on public safety. Okay, so guys, these are outlines and ideas that I'm giving, based on which you frame answer, you analyze things, and you prepare. Then in the one-to-one sessions, we will finalize it. Then I will say yes to that. And then you will start practicing that, deliver that in the mock interviews and in the final interview. That's how we are going to work out. So in my interviews also, I emphasize my personal commitment to serving the public and explain that motivation stem from a strong belief of importance of justice, fairness, and making, public safety and all those things, because IPS was my preference. Okay. So again, demonstrating personal integrity. This is very important. Personal integrity is about staying true to your moral principles. Always remember, always true to your moral principles, 100% truth. Okay. And even when you're faced with difficult choices. So, for example, or for civil servants, this means making decisions that are guided by ethics, various ethical principles and standards, fairness, transparency, accountability, regardless of external pressures that you can come from the seniors, from the politicians, from the society at large, from some community, etc. So now what you can do, these are certain ways in which you can demonstrate your commitment to personal integrity in the interview. Guys, I'm giving everything. These are spoon feeding, and no one will give you like this. Let's talk about honesty and transparency. Civil servants must act with honesty in their dealings, whether it's in handling public funds, or interacting with the colleagues, or communicating with the public. Okay, in any situation, you should be uh, showing that honesty in all their dealings, in all your dealings. So integrity means being transparent about your actions and decisions. So do that. Show that. Do that. Now, fairness and impartiality. See, acting with integrity requires treating everyone equally. No, partiality. It should be impartiality. So, regardless of their background, their religion, their caste, their region, community, or their status, rich, poor, male, female, Hindu, Muslim, Brahmins, Shudras. No, it should not be. Everyone should be treated equally. And as a civil servant, you must ensure that your decisions are impartial and based on the law, not influenced by any personal biases or any kind of external pressures. So that's again something which you need to emphasize, and you need to show that in front of the board. Whether you practice it or not, that's entirely different, but something which you need to show in front of the board. Okay. Now, resisting pressure. See, most of the time, civil servants face pressure from political leaders, seniors, businessmen, community leaders, interest groups to bend the rules to act in, their favor in ways that are unethical or may benefit them and disproportionately, affect the poor and the marginalized. So here is where you need to demonstrate integrity. Now, demonstrating integrity means standing firm in the face of such kind of pressure and making decisions that are in line with ethical standards and law, and upholding rule of law. For example, if you're asked how you would handle a situation where a political leader pressure or keep on calling you or pressurizing you to approve an illegal project, what you can say? You can firmly, or no, I'll frame my answer. I would firmly but respectfully explain the project cannot be approved because it violates the law and compromises environmental safety. So then I would offer the alternative solutions that meet legal and ethical standards. But uh, in any case, I would not compromise on my integrity. So I can give alternatives where legal standards are met, ethical standards are met, environmental sustainability is also met. Still, I won't compromise on my integrity. Again, if you talk from the perspective of IPS in the context of law enforcement, you may be asked to a situation how you would handle corruption within the police force. Then what you can say as an IPS officer or as a superintendent of police, that's your first important posting after ASP. I would ensure that any officers involved in corrupt practices are held accountable through legal action, proper legal action, regardless of their rank. It's very crucial that law enforcement remains transparent and trusted by the public. Okay, so otherwise, if you compromise, the public trust is lost. And I would also work to build a culture of integrity within the force to whatever level it is possible. So guys, you need to think about these lines. I'm giving you the structure. I'm giving you the keywords and everything in this lectures. Make your answers. We sit together 5 sessions and we decide the final structure for your answers. Because every one of you are different and not everyone is going to clear the main. So at this point of time, I cannot come to you individually. That's something which we need to do after mains. In one of my interviews, I was asked about how I would handle a situation where there was pressure to overlook certain regulations in a government project. I explained my first responsibility is to, follow the law and, follow the public interest, law and public interest. And I would not compromise on legal and ethical standards, even if it meant for, facing political or bureaucratic pressure. So that's the theme of the answer. So I hope this is very clear. Maintain honesty and transparency, fairness and impartiality, resisting the pressures. Now we need to go for the structuring part. So in all cases, we are going to do this so that it helps you to give a better answer in any circumstances. When you got a question about your personal integrity or situations where they're testing your personal integrity, or for that matter any question, we need to have the structure. So a structured response is always better. Why? Because sometimes even if you go out of focus, right, here you're not going out of focus, you are still in the structure. Within the frame only you are fixing things and giving the answer without losing anything. So the essence is given and you are conveying the message what they are looking for. Certain words may be missing based on the situation, but that ultimately doesn't matter if you can follow that structure. So the 4 steps or that you can follow is identify the ethical dilemma first. So what you need to do is start by clearly explaining the situation that presents the conflict, in the situation, the conflict of interest or the moral challenge or what ethical, situation that you are in now. And this sets the stage for how you will approach the problem. So once you explain this, now the panel will be more interested in listening to you and how you're going to solve this. So they have given a situation. Now you first identified, yeah, this is a challenge here. So once you, now they understood that you understood the case. Now they will be more interested. Otherwise also they are more interested in listening to you, but here the interest will be more. Now state your ethical principles. This conveys a lot. Okay, so after the first, identifying the dilemma, outline the ethical values that guide your decision making. This should include what all things? Honesty, integrity, fairness, transparency, accountability, etc., 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 whatever. At least integrity, transparency, and, fairness, accountability. These 4 should be there. Now, explain your decision. After outlining your principles that based on which you're going to take decision, now you explain your possible, decision. So how you would apply them to the situation. What decision did you make and why was it right choice from an ethical perspective? Talk about that from legal and ethical perspective. Sometimes there are certain things which are legal but may not be ethical. But there are certain things which may be legal and also ethical. Mostly this is a combination, which are legal will be ethical most of the time. Now again, demonstrate the long-term impact. So finally, that's the last step. Emphasize the importance of maintaining integrity in the long run. And acting ethically, that is going to build a trust with the public and ensures that governance remain effective. Once you get the public trust and then the public cooperation, then the governance will be effective for a long period of time. If you look for a long-term purpose. For example, let's say if you are asked how you will handle a case where a business offers a bribe to secure a government contract. Okay, so let's say any business entity comes to you and they want to get the government contract. You have been asked about the contract to give the quotation value, whatever, and you have been given huge amount as bribe. Now you follow the process, right? So the ethical dilemma here is that accepting bribe would violate my integrity and will compromise the fairness of the process. You stated that. Now, my principles of honesty and fairness guide my decisions, and I believe that the public must have trust in government contracts. So you state your ethical standards, principles, and then you will say what you will do. I would refuse the bribe and ensure that the contract is awarded through transparent, competitive process, whatever process which is followed. So you explained your decision. And this would maintain public trust in the system and ensure that resources are used effectively for public benefit. So you're talking about the long-term benefit. Okay. So 4 steps are followed. In one of my interview, again, I was asked about how you would handle a situation where political leaders pressured me to favor a particular group in a government project. I explained that my decision making would be guided by fairness, transparency, and accountability, and I would ensure that all groups were treated equally according to the law, impartially. And by standing firm on these principles, I would maintain public trust, and that would help in the long run, in the project and the government as a whole as well. Okay, so that's how following this structure will help you. So I hope it is very clear. 4 steps: identifying the dilemma, follow the principles, ethical principles, explain your decisions, and also talk about the long-term impact. Now, balancing integrity with practical governance. See, guys, while personal integrity is non-negotiable, no question about that, civil servants often face practical challenges that require balancing your ethical principles with the realities of governance. Now, how can you do that? You need to follow this approach. So here again, I'm giving you an approach. Stand firm on ethical principles. So in this context, I want to say that in any situation, integrity is never compromised. Okay, so your integrity should never be compromised, no matter how difficult is the situation. So they will test you in multiple situations. So no matter how difficult situation, your integrity is not compromised. Make sure that point. If we will have one-to-one session and whatever issues that is coming up, then I can identify and I can discuss, no problem. The traps which can be set and everything we can discuss. Okay, so whether you're facing a political pressure, resource constraints, or competing interest, your ethical standards must remain intact. No question about that. Right, now find practical solutions. While upholding your integrity, it's very important to find practical solutions that address the immediate needs of the situation. That's again something which we already discussed, but always give that. And this might involve, finding alternative approaches that are both, ethical and effective in practice. Again, engaging with stakeholders. See, in some cases, you will need to engage with different stakeholders such as political leaders or community groups to explain your decision and work towards a solution that benefits everyone while maintaining the ethical standards. So that's again something which you need to do. For example, okay, I'll give you an example for this. If you're asked how you would manage resource allocation during a crisis while facing pressure from, uh, various groups or to favor certain groups, what you can say is, I would ensure that resources are allocated based on need and in accordance with the ethical principle. That means you stand firm on ethical principles. At the same time, I would explore, ways to ensure that all stakeholders feel their needs are being considered. Perhaps, through open communication and transparency in the decision-making process, etc. So you're finding the practical solution, right? That's what we are looking for. So even in tough situation, where there can be a possibility that your integrity can be compromised, but still you have no option. You should never compromise your integrity in any difficult situation. So in my friends' interviews, or even in my interviews also, I've experienced that in situations where there are practical challenges, you remain committed to ethical principles, especially upholding that integrity, while working with stakeholders to find solutions that serve the public good. Stakeholder approach is good, but always try to uphold the integrity and effective governance should go hand in hand. Okay, so guys, all the words that I'm using here, it's crafted, so I want you to use that. Write down. I give you the PDF, still write it down. Whatever you feel as important, when you see certain words that I'm using, write it down, use it often in your conversation. And you need to have an interview, you know, uh, kind of vocabulary. So that's entirely different. Okay, we'll practice that later. So this we have discussed: stand firm, find solutions, engage stakeholder. Okay, now one of the personal experience I'll share. See, when I'm talking about the personal experience, it could be my friend's experience also. I've added because 50 sessions are there, 50 experiences. It's difficult. So sometimes I add, experience from my friends also, batchmates also. In one of the interview, the question was, how you handle a situation where, you have pressure to bypass the regulations to expedite a government project. Okay. So suppose the question is to me, it's like this: how I'm going to handle a situation where I have the pressure to bypass certain rules and regulations to expedite a government project to benefit some business. So here you will begin, I'll say from my side. So I began, or I will explain, or I began by, by explaining that, while expediting the project, it might have short-term benefits. Yes, short-term benefits might be there, you know, but you're doing bypassing the regulation. It can compromise the integrity of the project as such. So here you identified the ethical dilemma, right? Now you need to state the principles and find solution and long-term step. So then you need to talk about the principles. So, you can emphasize that your decision making would be guided by transparency, accountability, and integrity. And, you will ensure that the project follow the proper legal standards and requirements. So that's your ethical principles. And you can now say, at the same time, you will explore alternative ways to speed up the project without breaking the rules, by following the rules, by following the procedures, such as streamlining bureaucratic processes, proper coordination with the various departments, etc. That's something which you can do to enhance the speed. Okay. And then finally, by standing firm on ethical principles while finding practical solution, you can demonstrate that integrity and effective governance can go hand in hand. So you are not compromising on integrity here. At the same time, you are not making any issue with the governance part also. You're, speeding up the process anyway. So now moving on to the conclusion part. Right. Okay. See, guys, again, in conclusion, what I want to tell you is questions about public service motivation and personal integrity are critical in UPSC interview because they ultimately reveal the values that guide your decision making. So, what I want to tell you is just 1 minute. Yeah. So it comes very important and handy when it comes to the decision making, and they reveal the values that you uphold, that basically guide your decision making. So be sure and have a clarity, and also to reflect on your personal motivation for joining civil service, and demonstrate a strong commitment to the ethical principles. That's something which is very important. Demonstrate a strong commitment and a serious desire to join the service for the public. Okay. And always try to balance integrity with the practical challenges of governance. And you also need to ensure that you make decisions that are both ethical and effective. So what do you need to do now? Practice answering these questions in mock interviews, and try to refine your ability to articulate your values very clearly and confidently. Whether you have the values or not, yes or no, it's up to you, but still try to articulate it very clearly and communicate properly to the board, so that you should be doing good, right? So now I can take up some of the questions. Any one of you can go for a recap of the session. Let me pause the video.